So today we continue to factor. Yesterday 7-2 we factored, it just meant we were distributing backwards. Today we're going to factor in a different way, it just means that we're foiling backwards. So if you want to call this unfoiling, I guess you could. I'm going to call this factoring trinomials. We'll be doing this for several days. Today we're going to do a choice where the last sign is all pluses. Maybe the first sign is too, maybe it isn't, but they're going to go ahead and just make the last sign be pluses all day today, and that's going to help us just keep this a little simpler. If you were foiling some stuff and an x squared came popping out, you've had experience with that happening. What might be going on over here that if you foiled it, an x squared pops out?
There's two x's.
There's two x's. Both in one thing or like one in each thing?
One in each.
One in each. So you've had a lot of problems where this had an x and that had an x, and that helped you get an x squared. That's going to be going on this board everywhere today. We're going to get two different factors, is what these are called. This is a factor, that's a factor. Both factors are going to have an x. That's going to help us get an x squared. To get an 8, there's a couple ways that you could get an 8. What might you have had here to get you an 8?
4 and 2.
Could have maybe had a 4 and 2, or a 2 and 4, one way or another. What's another like grouping of numbers we could have had that got you an 8?
1 and 8.
1 and 8, or like an 8 and 1, something like that. But there's a bunch of numbers that multiply to 8, and that's what we need for these numbers to do, is they need to multiply to make that 8 that's at the end. But we need them to also agree with this 6. So for today, what we want those numbers to do is be able to add to make that number. So is this the 8 ones? Or would that be the 4 2s?
4 and 2.
That's the 4 2s. So we're looking to multiply to make this number. We're looking to add to make that number. So something with 4s and 2s. And then we just need to consider our signs. If we're getting a positive number, these have to be the,
Plus.
well, not both, they might not both be positive, they might also both be negative, because 2 negatives makes
A
a
positive.
positive. But for today, what we're guaranteed is that the signs are going to be the same. So if this is a positive number, do them the same, both to be pluses. But if I drop you a negative number in the next example, we're going to do them to be the same, just
Negative.
minuses. Okay, so here's what the name of the game is in the long run. You'll always want to check this sign first. Okay? If this sign is a plus, we're going to be the same as this sign. Doubles. So as long as this is a plus, check this sign and do 2 of that sign. They're going to be the same as each other. The x squared, we're going to go x and x. And then we just think through like our times table facts and our number knowledge. We have to multiply to make the last number while adding to make the middle number. So this, it's the same number pairs, it's the same 4 and 2. The only thing I did was switch the signs. Question about that first pair? How could you check this?
Foil.
Just foil it. This would make
X to the second.
x to the second, which we want. These two would make
8.
positive 8, which we want. These make
Negative.
negative 4x, and then another
Negative 2.
negative 2x added together, it's negative 6x. And we're right. You could always foil if you want to check. So for this one, signs,
Both plus.
both plus. Since this is a plus, we know they're the same. Look to the other one and it guides you. If we go to do this one, what would we know about signs?
They're the same.
They're the same, both pluses or both minuses?
Minus.
Both minus because of that. And then it's going to be the same number set. You have to think of a set of numbers that multiplies to make 12. There are a lot of numbers that do that, 2, 6, 3, 4, 12, 1, bunches. But only one of those pairs will add to make 7. That's the 3. And it doesn't matter if one person puts 3, 4, and another person puts 4, 3. As long as the signs are the same, it really doesn't matter which number goes where. I think that's easier than yesterday. Maybe when you try it at home, maybe it won't be, I don't know. Maybe it just seems that way right now. Everything seems easier in the room on the board when I'm holding the chalk. Something about those. Let's go slight turn. Whenever you go to make your homework paper, what you might want to do is what I already did, is just go like parentheses right down your page and just get this out of the way. X, 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 X. Everybody's going to get an X. But that's going to happen. And then what did we say is going to be true today only about all of the signs? They're always the same. It's just a question of same as what? So double pluses or double minuses? Double pluses. Because where are you looking? At the 12 or the 8 for that? Looking at the 8. So whatever this sign is, we double them. So this would be minuses, pluses, minuses. Question about the basic setup or that little choice about signs. And just play with numbers. There's again a bunch of stuff that multiplies to make 12. But there's only one pairing that's going to do that 6 when you add them.
6 and 2.
6 and 2. And some people will be quicker at that than others, and that's okay. But it's there. If you struggle with it, just make yourself a list. Like 1, 12, 2, 2, 6, 3, 4. Like write down all the ways to make 12, and then just in your mind, swap the one that adds to the 8. So here,
6 and 2.
it's the same thing. It's the same 6 and 2. Question about that one. So who's the next number pair?
12 and 1.
12, 1. Anybody not with me for how we pulled that? Okay, then I got mean. How'd I get mean on the next one?
You swapped it.
I like swap the order up. So if that makes you uncomfortable, just like swap the order back. Put the x squared first, keep the 7x in the middle, put the 10 last. If that doesn't make you uncomfortable, then just like live with it, it's fine. It doesn't matter what order it's in. The x squared still came from x and x. The signs are still pluses because of the sign on the middle, the xy term. And then the number pair
5 and 2.
is 5 and 2. Something about that. What's going to be different about this one?
They're going to be y's
There's going to be y's. Where?
at the end.
At the end. So if the beginning has an x squared, begin with some x's. If the ending has a y squared, end with some y's. But other than that, just play the game we were playing. Signs?
Plus
Pluses both ways.
5 and 2.
And then we're back to the 5 and 2. Because 5 times 2 is 10. 5 plus 2 is 7. All those letters will just take care of themselves.
Is that a 20? Yeah.
This is a 20 on the next one, yeah. So signs,
Plus.
plus.
We have 2 y's at the end.
We get a couple y's at the end to get that y squared cooking.
It's 4 and 5.
4 and 5, or 5 and 4, however you want to do it. Next one shouldn't take us more than a second because
Minus.
it's just minuses, but otherwise it's the same. It's pretty much the tricks we have up our sleeves. The worst thing they can do to you is like mess with the order. I don't think they'll do this, but someday in your life you might see this. Let's say this had like a 20.
Is it 10?
Then these would be 10s. Because when we multiply, we have to do what to powers? Add them, and that would add to 20. But if they did this as a 20, they'd also have to adapt that to be a 10 there. Because if this has 10s, it would scatter 10s all throughout the problem. But for example, if this were a 12,
6.
these would need to be 6s. But in their creative world as an author, they would need, when they created the 12, to create the 6 and everything and still do that. They aren't going to do that in this homework, but you'll see that in your lifetime. What's up with that? Click hit. So where we are, homework life, just up one section, couple pages. This goes to 280. So 280, we're working 1 to 30. And then I slightly fibbed to you, we're gonna try 48. 48 is gonna do like a bigger power than 2s. So I said that wasn't in the homework, I think. I threw one of those at you on 48. But 1 to 30 is just like what we did on the board. We did what, like 10 of them at least in about 3 minutes. So I don't think that's gonna take too long for you. There's a couple that they do put them out of order toward the middle. Like I said, when we did this one, if that bothers you, just switch them back. I don't think you really need to show any work on this. I think you could pretty much just turn in a paper with these parentheses sets all the way down the line, because most of this can be just mental math. Unless it helps you to make lists, then make lists if lists help you. That's all I got. Thank you, Karen, woman.